On the show today, we welcome Jeff Rice, a financial planner with Barnum Financial Group, who helps his clients achieve their goals while focus on asset management, retirement income strategies. He joins the show to discuss his team approach towards clients and about his career in the industry of Barnum. I'm Paul Blanco, and this is Small Steps, Big Wins. All right, Jeff Rice, welcome to Small Steps, Big Wins. I was so excited to have you on the show today, and you've come such a long way in this career, Jeff, and I'm so excited for you to share that with everyone.
Thank you, Paul. I'm happy to be here. Excited.
Well, same here. So let's kind of dive right in here, and I always like to start in the beginning. So tell me how you found financial services and what you were thinking, as a 22-year-old kid coming out of college. Like, give me a little background on that.
Yeah. So, when I was graduating from Quinnipiac, as I'm sure you, I don't know if you remember or not, I did a lot of different interviews. I probably interviewed with 12 different companies.
I did not know you did that many.
No. Well, it was everything from corporate finance and economics to obviously the financial services industry, financial planning. So I interviewed with all of them, and I've never been the type of person that could be behind a desk for 10 to 12 hours a day, and sitting in a corporate financial world where you're doing that did not really appeal to me after several interviews. So that kind of moved my focus towards the financial services industry. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm 22 years old, or 21, 22 at the time. I said, you know what? Let's try this. Let's check out this industry, see how it goes. And what's the worst thing that could happen? I'll be 25, and if I don't make it in 3 years, I'll be 25, and I could go to corporate finance or economics if I wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it. And it's interesting you say that. I struggled over the years as a leader of bringing in those career changes that were like 35, because many of them had, significant others and children's and bills, and they didn't have that luxury sometimes to give it those 3 years. And I think coming off the campus makes a big difference because you get time to do that. And it's an easy one to move on if you don't, because you get good experience either way,
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, obviously the piece of helping people definitely appealed to me, as well as the do more, get more type philosophy. So that was really important to me and really helpful. Those three things, not being at a desk and the other two.
Yeah, that's awesome. So was there, like, when you got here, and you're going through and you're learning, and it's like this fire hose coming at you, was there like a defining moment where one day you woke up and you're like, all right, this is my career. I'm not going another route at 25. I'm like, I love it. I could do it. Was there a time that turning point for you with that?
I fortunately had good mentorship when I first got here. Obviously, you and the management team from the firm. I would tell you that I was a fairly motivated person right from the beginning. I think I had said to you in one of our interviews that I've never failed at anything in my life, and I don't
remember that.
To do that now. So I would tell you that from the beginning, it was mentorship with management, as well as having a couple other newer guys starting at the same time. So Matt in my office and I both started within a couple of weeks of each other, and we pushed each other. And so that was key. I would tell you that from the beginning, Matt and I were doing 400 dials a week, every week. You're working 12-hour days, Monday through Friday, and coming in on Saturday from 9 to noon. So, I mean, we were just working a ton of hours, incredibly motivated. And, the success obviously helped that. But that was the first piece, is that I was incredibly motivated from the beginning. The second probably motivating piece for me was a little bit later in my career. It was, probably 6-7 years in, where things didn't go my way for a year or two, and it kind of motivated me to go from the first step of success to the second or third step of success. So that's when I started a team, and that's when I started building that, infrastructure.
Yeah, which is interesting because everyone comes in the business at a different time. I always kind of reflect on how some business owners, because we are really in an entrepreneurial business, but many advisors don't look at it that way in the beginning because they don't have their own shingle. And sometimes it takes time. And I appreciate how transparent you are on that. But before I get into the team and some of that stuff, I'd like to go backwards. Um, I think it's important, Jeff, as you continue to mentor people around you and you're a role model for other people out in the marketplace and watching from afar, but that you share what you did. I mean, I know how you talked about the 400 dials and the Saturdays and the Fridays. And sometimes younger advisors today don't understand that grind that it takes to get you there, and keep sharing that, because I think that's really important, because it does take a special mindset to do that. So I appreciate you sharing that. But when you go backwards, you get to year 6 or 5, whatever it was, and you realize like, hey, like I'm doing this on my own. I probably don't have the infrastructure I need, and maybe some of the people on my as a team, and teaming had just became sort of in vogue probably a couple of years before you did that. So how did that mindset change, and what were you thinking when you started down that path?
I think it was, at the beginning of it, it was more not having to deal with some of the issues with paperwork and things along those lines. I remember Katie in the back office. She and I had a couple of very frank conversations, as well as Mindy, over the years about paperwork. And, it's just not something that I'm good at. So I remembered back to, the history classes that I've had, the education that I've had in the past that's basically said, why are you basically beating your head against a wall, trying to accomplish things that you're not good at? So delegation was very important to me when we first started, as far as paperwork and some of the other things that I was not good at. And that was the beginning part, was the hiring the first, assistant, and then, teammate, and then, basically being able to delegate things to them was a huge game changer for me.
And what's interesting, Jeff, is that having that mindset and knowing what your weakness is, right? And not trying to fix your weakness, number one. But number two is understanding your hourly wage versus some of the other roles that you do. And we can use something as simple as, someone cutting their lawn for 3 hours when they can pay someone $15 an hour to do that. If their hourly wage is more than that, it would probably be a wise decision. So I commend you for doing that. So
I talk about that all the time, Paul. I bring that up to my wife and and everybody on the team all the time. I love cutting my grass. I would love to absolutely go out there and spend 2 hours on a riding mower and do all that stuff. It's just I'd rather coach baseball for my son, or do something else that would be better for my life.
Yep, that's great. So keep going now on the team. So you get the assistant and you have a partner now, and what was the mindset shift there after you did all that?
Yeah, I mean the mindset when so first it was the assistant, and then Mark came into the team, and then we had a couple juniors that we were working with. And I would tell you that the biggest game changer is that it's not just me anymore. It's us. And switching from that and being able to delegate and to give things to other people is definitely huge. I mean, just this past year, after being in the business for 20 plus years, we did it again. I gave some things to some other people, and I delegated things that, that were eating up a lot of my time. So, the other thing there for me was the trust aspect. It was, I give you this application, and then I asked a half an hour later, is that done? Is this, do you need this? Which is something that I had to kind of step back and say, hey, what can we use so that I don't have to do this? And obviously, Salesforce and some of the other tools that we use as a firm have definitely improved my anxiety around that over the years as well. So,
Well, listen, I appreciate you being very honest about that because as a young entrepreneur, that's a major change for you. And, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's what that was, right? Even though you took a long time to do it and you were sloppy, let's say, but at the same time, you had to start to build that trust in other people. And sometimes I find that it's time and development, right? Because they don't just wake up and they're good at paperwork. They might be better than you, but they're not 100%. So I think that's a good lesson learned for you on, what do they do and not do that. So fast forward to today, like you started then, and that was, 5, 6 years in. So now 15 years later, what's the team look like today? How many advisors? How much staff?
Yeah, so we have three senior partners. It's myself, Mark, and Diego. Then we have four juniors right now that are on the team. It's Curtis, Ted, Greg, and Dan. And then we have three support staff. So we have Gabby, Megan, and Veronica. So there's 10 of us in total, but we're always adding. We're always looking at, I think you said it best when you said, hey, if you're waiting to fill a seat until there's a need, you're already too late. You're, what was it, 3, 6 months too late. And I took that to heart. And we're always trying to add where we need things. And so we're looking to add probably an additional support staff and an additional junior this year, just to kind of keep things going in the right direction.
Yeah, it's interesting. And the second piece to that from a coaching perspective is, let's say that you draw out the 5-year plan for the infrastructure, right? And you know that you need these 2 staff roles and one's a different skill than the other one. What's really fun about those is sometimes you trip over those people and you don't need that person for 36 months, but they're too good and too talented that you say, okay, I'm going to skip this role and fast forward to this role ahead of time. So one good lesson I think you should, for all the listeners here and yourself included, you should plan that out, like almost have an org chart with your empty boxes for 5 years out. And then if that person comes into your life some way, somehow, sometimes you find the best people when you're not looking,
Oh, absolutely.
But knowing what you want,
Yeah, and I would tell you that we're constantly reevaluating and evolving as a team. I mean, just recently, over the past 4 to 5 years, Diego, as an example, has taken a different role. I mean, he's always been a senior partner on the team with myself and Mark, but he's kind of evolved into more of a junior partner, training and helping with those tasks and those goals, and also, product development or product knowledge. He's also helped with that as well. And then Gabby, we've recently moved her up to chief of staff over the last 12 months here, and she's really taken the reins with that and kind of reassessed what our staff on the team is doing and kind of change different tasks and different objectives for people on the team, which is great.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So when you look at now having that infrastructure behind you and the other advisors, we always talk about, that COVID was really, really a tough thing. And it really, there was a lot of negatives to COVID, but the one positive to COVID was that the use of technology, where it was only 10, 15% of our day to day on the client interaction, is now probably closer to 90%. What does a normal week look like for you now with, between having the technology, having the infrastructure and the other advisors? What's your normal week look like? How many people are you seeing? And give me a little color on what your week is like now.
Yeah, well, I mean, previously I would probably see 12 people a week and really my clients are all over the place as well. So I'm not really geographically centered. So I'd be going to Rhode Island one day a week, up to Torrington another day in the week, and so forth and so on. So I would probably see 12 per week. And I would say that on average, I'm seeing probably 25 are probably in the calendar on a weekly basis. And I'm able to see people via, Zoom or Teams or whatever it is to, kind of cut that back substantially, which is great. In order to see, many more people. I'd like to see more. I mean, it's just a question of how much time I'm able to spend with people, and so if you're factoring in 45 minutes an hour, so forth and so on. But I would say Monday, we start every Monday with our team meeting, which is important for us to talk about last week, talk about this week, and what we're planning and what we're expecting for the week. Every person on the team goes through what their week looked like last week and this week. We go through our numbers as a team from all the different products and the mill, as far as what we're expecting to come out this week, as far as placings. And then we also talk about any issues with any cases that we need to reach out to the client directly on. And then after that, it's pretty much case prep with the other advisors. So if I'm doing a lot of joint work with the juniors, we're going through what we need to prepare for our clients for that week. And then it's basically running all the meetings with the clients at that point.
But, yeah. So, I mean, realistically, besides all the infrastructure and the stuff you have, you were able to, over the last 4 years, double the amount of meetings you've seen. And probably as you can add the next staff and another junior, you probably can grow that by another 10, 20%. And you now become a financial doctor where you're spending the bulk of your time, probably 70% of your week, in front of clients, which is, I believe, the most fun and the most rewarding part of the business,
Yeah, and that's what I wanted. I mean, that's my favorite part of the business, is the sitting belly to belly with the client, or screen to screen, so to speak. But that's my favorite part, is sitting down with people and talking to them about their situation and just trying to be a problem solver. Yeah. And then, the beauty is that at the end of every meeting, I'm also able to then delegate everything out to the team. So I'll send my notes from the meeting to the junior that's on the appointment, and also the support staff that's needed, and then they delegate everything out, which is awesome. So it's basically everything is automated, everything is good to go and ready for me, which is awesome.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. You talked a little about Salesforce earlier. We've made a major investment in it, but it's only as good as the user, right? I would say we have a lot of power users. I know you are one, but why don't you tell us how you use that and how it's helped you to continue to scale and grow?
Yeah, I mean, so Salesforce has every client account and every client contract in there. It reminds us of birthdays. It reminds us of client contract anniversaries. We put in there quarterly. So however often the client wants to see us, 1 to 6 times a year. We put that in Salesforce. So we have reminders that go out on a daily, monthly, weekly basis, depending on how often. So that's just from a client interaction standpoint. In addition to that, it helps the girls process paperwork. Obviously, they're interacting with Shelton. So if a client wants to move, $100K from this account to this account, that's going through Salesforce, and that's in there for not only myself to see what's happening with the client, but also my staff to move the dollars over and make sure that they're there. And then once they do get to that new account, it actually sets up a reminder for Mark, who handles the day-to-day operations for the wealth management side, to actually execute the trades, free up cash if a client needs a distribution. It basically does everything for us, which is, well, it doesn't do everything for us. It reminds us to do everything.
Yep. Gotcha. So. And then talk about, you hit it a little bit on some of the reminders and stuff, but does your team and yourself use the scorecards very effectively of how to see when there's great opportunities with clients? Because your book is pretty substantial at this point of your career. You guys probably have a couple of thousand clients on the books, I bet, at this time.
Yeah, I'd say we're probably around 2,500-ish, somewhere in that range, depending upon,
Yeah. So it's a
where
big
you
book.
look, where you go, which is great. And the only way that we're able to manage it all is through Salesforce. I would say that, it does allow us to interact with them and keep up with everybody on a day-to-day basis. But yes, we do use the scorecards. But what I would tell you is that we already had in our individual sales forces. So if Mark has a client that's his contract is coming due after the 3, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is, we already have that set in there. And then we usually have a reminder 6 or 12 months beforehand, just to look at it, so to speak, so that we can be prepared when the client is ready.
It's great. It's great. So you talked about that 5 and 6th year where, you felt you were a little behind in terms of the infrastructure, maybe to some of your peers, right? And teaming, and you fixed that. And now fast forward, but what are some of the challenges that you face, as a team or as an individual, in the last couple of years? Has there been any that, you're like, all right, we got to work through this, and what do we
Yeah.
do here?
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly having challenges on a day-to-day basis. I would tell you the two biggest ones are, especially COVID and beyond, is that I was a big, as I said before, belly to belly person. So I was used to reading how my client was interacting with me, and as anybody is, and the being on Zoom and the tech takes a little bit of that away. So we've evolved our sales process, especially over the last 12 to 18 months, in order to be sharper, be better, be more efficient, more touches over time, in order to hopefully make up for some of that. So if somebody's in California, I can't necessarily just hop on a plane every other day and go and see them, but I can say, okay, well, hey, I'm just checking in, what's going on, anything new, so forth and so on, to kind of bring the touches up. I mean, we've always tried I think it was when I first got into the business, they talked about the 12 touches. And I took that to heart as well, with the email systems, the birthday cards, the, 3, 4 meetings per year. So we've always tried to implement that over time. Client appreciation events have kind of gone by the wayside over the last 4 or 5 years here. But I mean, I also kind of miss those too. So I miss that piece of it. So that I think might come back in for 25. So, but we'll go through that when we get there. And then I would say the other biggest issue is keeping everybody rowing in the same direction. Now that we have 10 people on the team, it's like, okay, well, dealing with this personality versus that personality, and okay, this one mixes with that one well, and okay, well, that one doesn't really work well with this one, so we need to move things around. So but that's just constantly, you're just paying attention, you're seeing what's going on.
Yeah, and those are great. And one piece of advice I would share with all of you listening today is Zoom. And it took me a while to convince the advisors in 2020, 2021, because many of them said what you said, right? I'm going back to face when I can. I love it. I like being with the client and all that. That's not changing with some of the programs we have here now that you're national. Obviously, you can't get on the plane all the time. But one thing if I ask a lot of advisors, they'll say, yeah, but when I'm with a client, I'm drawing a lot, I'm illustrating things, seeing their reaction. And I think one of the things advisors have to do now is, let's just make this up for you, Jeff. You're at 25 meetings right now. Let's say that we figure out, based on your demeanor and your follow-up, that 32 is your cap. So we get you those, we figure out how to get you those 7 more. But now it's, how do you get more effective on those Zooms? And I think you and your 6 other advisors should start role playing and practicing on drawing on that and illustrating and almost making believe it's face to face, because it is a game of inches. And it's the same thing as the infrastructure. When you are a professional, you say, okay, I'm playing. It's kind of like, they changed the rules in sports where you can't hit the quarterback like you used to. So if you do that, you're going to get a flag, right? You
Yep.
guys, your flag is that you don't get the same engagement for the client. So I would push you and all the listeners to say, all right, Zoom is here. And I'm going to learn to be able to do all the things I did and write upside down and illustrate. And the advisors that have done that have taken a little bit more time up front where they send their bio out before they meet, and they have their follow-up emails and they do their 12 drips. I find that they're super comfortable and the evolution is getting better and better. So make sure you take the time with your team. And that's a good, this is the cheating stage. I call this you're in like separation season right now. Most advisors that you're looking at in the industry are taking the month of August off, and then they're going to take December off. You can teach your advisors to do that. And I think that will be a game changer for you.
And to be honest with you, Paul, the biggest change recently is Diego has, as I said before, has evolved over the 15 years that he's been on with me, has definitely evolved over time, and he's actually done a phenomenal job implementing e-money into our practice. We really didn't use it as much 6 months ago. Today, every single appointment that we go on, we're doing e-money profiles for everybody.
Awesome.
And for any juniors in the business that are watching, definitely model out every single case that you're going on, because
awesome.
It's a phenomenal tool, and it's changed our practice over the last 3 to 4 months. I mean, between Diego and Teg and Greg, they're constantly going in there and saying, "Hey, look at this new report that we're able to generate, and look at this one," and so forth and so on. And it's a game changer. It really is.
Well, congratulations. My dad used to say to me all the time that all these isms are around forever. And remember, there's one that I just said to you and you just played back to me. Congratulations for implementing the e-money and the visual, but a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Yeah.
So in lieu of, and by the way, it's probably easier to illustrate that on Zoom than it would be face-to-face, because you're trying to get two people around your computer, or if they're not in your office and you have a TV up, this is really more interactive.
Oh yeah,
and that's a game changer, and I'm not surprised.
You can change it immediately in the meeting, and then the other piece too, because I was a big, a big chart guy in my meeting, as I know a bunch of the other guys in the firm are too, and I've been using some of the tools with regards to that too, and drawing on the screen and doing all of my illustrations. So, and that's basically been over the last 3 to 6 months as well. So,
well, congratulations.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been great.
Well, listen, it's a math equation, right? If you get enough people to see, then the next thing is what's your closing ratio and how are you doing in terms of making them clients? And then it's the next piece is, are you adding all the products in line? Because that word financial planning and fiduciary is a really big buzzwords, but there's many advisors that are only on the protection side or only on the investment side. And when you truly think of planning and illustrating that, so if you do three things, get enough people to see, make sure you're maximizing all those appointments using all the tools that you need, and then make sure you're not leaving any of those products and the client susceptible to something up front.
And like I say in every meeting with clients is that we're not we don't have to use any proprietary products. We're able to use everything that's out there. And Salesforce has also helped with that too. I mean, it's basically allowed us to go, okay, well, which annuity platform is better for the client today? And, so the client brings their money over and I say, okay, well, which one of these 2 or 3 is best for you? And then we look at
using the quoting tool that's on there.
You got it.
Yeah, which is awesome, because some of your peers, some of the people that you worked with early in your career will tell me that I would have to meet with 7 wholesalers, understand their products. And now I just hit a button and it tells me, what's out there in the marketplace and what I should use. And they're changing rapidly.
Yeah. And I mean, the other big issue too is, and I think you said this over the years here, and just things that have been drilled into my brain over the years. It's, the biggest issue when you become an advisor that's been here for 10, 15, 20 years is becoming stale. Yeah. It's basically just doing the same exact thing every day. and expecting a different result. You have to change if you want things to get better or to increase.
Well, yeah, and I give you a lot of credit. And I think the best way to sum that up for advisors is to stay curious, keep reading, keep looking at things, always trying to figure out how to do it differently. And, I, as a CEO, try to lead by example of that. And it's really great stuff. So
Yeah.
listen, Jeff, man, I'm sitting here and saying, I love you. You probably did it 4 times where you said, I heard you. And, as a parent, you're always talking to your kids and you believe they hear you. Eventually, it might take 10 years for them to say, oh, I heard you. Right. But I feel the same way as a CEO. And it's nice to hear you say back the things that you've learned. And not only that you've learned and heard, but you've actually implemented. So when I look at your team now, down the home stretch here, you have great momentum. You've made a lot of shifts. You have the critical mass in place. You know what you need to do going forward to add people. And that word momentum is a massive word, and you've really scaled. What's next for you guys? Like, when you look out, because you guys are young and you got a good 20-year run ahead of you. And what's next?
That's a good question. I would probably tell you that we're still looking to scale up a little bit more. So we're on that growth trajectory over the next probably 10 to 20 years here. So we're still looking to build it out. I mean, there's a couple areas that we like to add in that we could definitely, grow in. So, like obviously staff, we continue to staff up there. I mean, I'd like to build it to a point where we get to another, 5 to 7 advisors as we continue to grow. So, I mean, that would probably be the only thing that I would really add in, and also look at, it's constantly evolving. I mean, you're looking at it, you're saying, okay, well, you look at these robo advisors and these other things that are out there, constantly changing the industry. So, we're obviously looking at that and saying, okay, well, how can we evolve and how can we change, and with the firm, obviously, and continue to help people, across the country. I mean, we went from being a local geographic firm to being nationwide, over the last 10 years here. I mean, if we really think about it, and it's been phenomenal. And we just want to continue to offer the best things for our clients moving forward.
Yeah, which is amazing. And when you think about what's going on, right? You have, there's all different stats, but there's $84 trillion in motion between now and 2050. And then there's something like 40% of the industry, or maybe more, is over 55. And only 9% is under 30. So when you think about the opportunity for you and your team and advisors that have a growth mindset and continue to stack one good day on top of the next, the sky is the limit for them. So, any last words for me, Jeff, before I close?
No, I mean, I would just emulate what you said. I mean, it's about growth. It's about continuing to change your mindset, and it's the name of is baby step. What's the
small steps, big wins.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's stacking the days on top of each other and continuing to grow personally, professionally, and have goals. I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, I've been in the business almost 21 years in 6 months. And I still have goals every single year. And I tell my guys, like two of my juniors right now are getting their own place for the first time, obviously for the first time, but they're getting their own, they're moving out and away from the nest, so to speak. And it's basically, they had that goal in mind, and now they're, up to the level where they can do that. So
I love it. Well, listen, Jeff, like, congratulations. The impact you're making on your team and the advisors and all the other advisors around that are watching you from afar, and the impact you've been making for almost 21 years on clients is incredible. So you're right. You have been taking small steps and you've won big. And I know that big is relative to today. I can't imagine where it's going to be in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So congratulations to you and all your success. And thank you for all you do. And everybody, make sure that you're going on Spotify and Apple and, sharing this with your friends. And people need to hear more of the Jeffs. And there's 50 other episodes on there. So make sure you go back you haven't listened to them and listened to them. So Jeff Rice,
Absolutely.
thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you, Paul.
You got it. Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone number 203-513-6000.